Here with me now in the studio is Dr. Nir Boms, a research fellow at the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University, and he's here to help us expand on what's going on regarding the new security measures installed at the Temple Mount. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
All right, so let's begin with, the biggest news of the day, we could say. The Palestinian president has suspended security cooperation meetings with Israel, and experts are split on how Israeli operations are actually going to be impacted. What do you think the impact is going to be?
Well, it depends how long this suspension or cease of cooperation will last. Obviously, the security collaboration has been one of the pillars of the relationship between the Israeli security authorities and the Palestinians. And this is one of those things that had lasted for even through the most significant crisis, probably because of Palestinian interest as well. The security collaboration means that the Palestinians are able to have better ability to stop those who are in opposition to them, including from Hamas and other elements. So this was very much part of their interest. The issue now is that we have a scenario, a developing scenario that began with an incident, a very radical incident on the Temple Mount, but now emerges into a crisis throughout the whole Arab and the Muslim world. And in that sense, the president of the Palestinian Authority, Abu Mazen, is saying, well, look, I have to do something different. I have to sort of play along, and canceling the security collaboration with the, quoting him, occupation state is a measure as such.
Well, the Israeli defense minister seems to think this move is something that's really not going to affect Israel for the most part, but could have a much more negative impact on the Palestinians. Is that going to be the case?
Well, he certainly has a point. In many ways, the radical voices coming out from the environment of the PA, including the radical voice that's coming from the Israeli Islamic movement, those movement that was responsible and associated with this terrorist attack on the Temple Mount. These are the people who would like to get Abu Mazen out of office. And the security collaboration is another mechanism that sometimes helps to stop these very people. And I think the Minister of Defense is saying, look, Mr. Abu Mazen, if you really want to empower radicals, please do.
Speaking of which, there were overnight raids. 29 Hamas members, or nearly 30 people in the West Bank, were detained, several which were apparently senior Hamas officials on the part of the Israeli security forces. Now, why is Israel choosing to target Hamas's presence in the West Bank? Could this have any impact on the future of Hamas's role, the specific attack that we saw took place over the weekend?
Look, throughout the Arab world, and Palestinians are not out of this equation, you have voices that are more pragmatic and voices that are more extreme. In this particular case, the Muslim Brothers and the Islamic movement, the Northern Branch, was connected to the Muslim Brothers, and Hamas are part of the same family, the same ideology, and these are the people who would like to say that the Temple Mount is in danger and would like to bring about the radical Islamist voice. Abu Mazen does not subscribe to that camp, and in many ways this is the camp that really threatens Abu Mazen.
Let's turn to what is taking place on the Temple Mount itself. These metal detectors, which have caused outrage. Now we're seeing the Israeli government say that they're going to put fences in instead of these metal detectors. What good does a fence do? Is this an effective form of security? What is your take on that?
Look, this discussion has two dimensions. One is a mechanical, technical, and another one is a very broad political dimension that is now obviously went far beyond the issues surrounding the Temple Mount itself. The security authorities, and I would default to them to say how best to secure a certain location. A metal detector obviously is a good solution in terms of understanding what can come in and what come out, but there may be other solutions, and there may be even an advantage of reaching some degree of compromise in order to create a certain degree of ease and calmness in a very volatile location at the moment. And in many ways, if you speak to the police, if you speak to the security authorities, their mandate is to make sure that the area remains calm. The other issues are far different than that. They have to do with sovereignty, they have to do with who is in control.
Right.
And all the statements that we hear have less to do with how effective a given magnetometer is, but really has to do with who actually sets the rules. And what Israel is trying to do is to make sure that on the one hand, it adheres to security demands and requirements, and on the other hand, do its part not to start World War III.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Nir Boms.
It's a pleasure.